It's another edition of Time About the Movies, and today we're taking a look at the movies of November 21st, 2003. Three movies to look at today, and a couple of big new releases. Some not as good as some of the other ones. Specifically, I take that back. Two of the three are actually good movies. The first film we have here, not so much. Let's talk about what is one of the worst movies of all time, in my personal opinion, and that is Mike Myers in Dr. Seuss's The Cat in the Hat.
Hi. Thanks for babysitting on such short notice. I'll be back in a couple of hours. Conrad, Sally, remember the rules. No playing ball in the house, no fighting, no answering the phone, city morgue, and absolutely no one sets foot in the living room or else. Hit me.
This holiday season,
What's that?
Universal Pictures, Dreamworks Pictures, and Imagine Entertainment invite you to the ultimate house party.
Let's get this party started.
From Ryan Grazer, the producer of The Grinch, Mike Myers,
This cat is currently in violation of 17 of your mother's rules. 18!
The Cat in the Hat.
Homina. Who is this?
That's my mom.
Awkward.
And just when you think that trailer isn't bad enough, you should see what the international trailer for this movie looked like. And, needless to say, it's pretty much nightmare fuel.
Next year, you can finally
Let's talk about good oral hygiene. Lasso went to see a professional dentist, and now his teeth are in perfect condition. You bet they are. Lasso went to see a professional dentist. 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 Lasso went to see a professional dentist.
What the hell was that? No, seriously, what the hell was that supposed to be? Like, does that really sell the movie? I mean, like, I don't know who thought that was a good idea, but man, did you really drop the ball on that one. But then again, this whole movie drops the ball on it because, you know, The Grinch was a big hit a couple of years ago, but then again, you had Ron Howard directing it, and at least that movie looked like a movie. This, not so much. The Cat in the Hat, of course, do I really need to tell you what the story is? You have Mike Myers as the Cat in the Hat, and Dakota Fanning starring as Sally, Spencer Breslin as Conrad, these two kids who are stuck at home during a rainstorm. And of course, the Cat in the Hat comes in and says, hey, let's have some fun. At least in the original story. And this one, it's, let's have some fun and also be incredibly obnoxious because I'm Mike Myers, and that's exactly what this whole movie is. This is a film that is notoriously bad for many reasons. I said this was one of the worst movies ever made, and you don't have to take my word for it, because Dr. Seuss's wife himself even thought that, because she said no more live-action adaptations of Dr. Seuss's work need to be made for this, and because of that, they canceled the sequel to this, because this did make money, not a lot, especially compared to The Grinch, but you know, I have this tied up with Dr. Seuss's The Lorax as two of the worst movies I have ever seen, because I hate the Lorax movie so much. It just felt like a mass misrepresentation of what that story was about with the Lorax, but of the two that are the biggest insult, it's easily the Cat in the Hat. Let's take the most iconic character Dr. Seuss has in his library outside of the Grinch and just turn him into an egotistical jackass. I mean, yeah, Mike Myers as the Cat in the Hat could have made for good casting, but then again, the last movie he did was Austin Powers and Goldmember, and that shtick was getting old really fast, so yeah, we can go ahead and scratch that out. The casting in this just seems forced and phoned in. I mean, this is a movie that has two top young kid talents. We've seen them in movies earlier this year. Dakota Fanning, Spencer Breslin, the year before with the Santa Claus 2. They really do not work in this show whatsoever. They're the typical bland, forgettable, trying to be relevant kids of the 90s and early 2000s that just don't act like normal kids. Kelly Preston as the mother is completely underused here. Alec Baldwin's just a bland, forgettable bad guy. It takes a lot to make Alec Baldwin look like a terrible actor, and this movie certainly does just that. But and not only that, it's just filler. It's some of the worst filler I've ever seen. And this movie is just under an hour and a half, 82 minutes long. And yet it still cannot find stuff to do with this character whatsoever when it's not taking from the source material. Like The Grinch has its flaws, especially with the runtime, and you could take a huge chunk of it out, and the movie still would have been, and the movie could have worked much better than it did. But you got more enjoyment out of The Grinch because of what Jim Carrey was bringing to the table, because everything looked like it was there. That's how bad this pile is, people. And it's just a complete misfire on everything Seuss's material stood for. Hey, there's a pointless party scene where Paris Hilton shows up for a cameo because she was a thing back then. Yeah, way to date stamp this movie before it's even out of theaters. How about one more? There's another scene where the Cat in the Hat is promoting Universal Studios and even does a ka-ching during the key part of the final act. It's like the people who made this movie just didn't give a fuck whatsoever. And it also doesn't help that the talent is there. Mike Myers can be funny. He's not funny here. But not only that, Alec Berg wrote this. That's a name you might not be familiar with, but he wrote for Seinfeld. He wrote for Silicon Valley. David Mandel, the guy who ran Veep, also worked for Seinfeld. Jeff Schaffer, you guessed it, wrote for Seinfeld and later created The League. You've got 3 writers from one of the greatest comedies of all time, and you don't get a good script out of it? Really? It also doesn't help that the movie's directed by Bo Welsh, a well-known production designer. He's done a lot of stuff for Beetlejuice, Ghostbusters 2, Batman Returns, the Men in Black movies. It was his first movie as a feature film director, and unfortunately, it's his only film as a director, because as great as this guy is as a production designer, the guy cannot direct to save his life. There are literally scenes where you could see miscues and things about to happen. I never forget this, towards the end of the movie, where you have Conrad and Sally running back to the house, and Alec Baldwin's character is supposed to pop out and surprise the kids as they reach the house. But if you look as they're running, you literally see Baldwin's legs. They don't even hide it. That's how lazy this movie is. This movie doesn't even take the time to digitize Alec Baldwin's legs out of the movie. It's just, it boggles the mind that this movie got made and actually came out the way it did, because my God, this is the worst possible thing you could do with this character alone. And let's talk about the CG effects, too. They're terrible. That fish there, horrible, even though he's another waste of talent with Sean Hayes. And you don't even get to see how he gets turned into the cartoon fish. Just kind of happens out of nowhere. And it's just, like, here's the thing. Dr. Seuss films should be timeless movies, like how Pixar does their films, for the most part. But these are books that we've grown up with kids, and the appeal of kids these days has gone way downhill in where they were when we were growing up. I mean, these books were made in a much different time period than they were today. They have got to stop throwing in pop culture references in Dr. Seuss movies and make them more timeless films. Even a movie like The Grinch, which I actually did like, the Benedict Cumberbatch one, has pop culture references in there. But you know what? Here's the thing. I don't like them in that. I don't like that they're in that movie, but at least they're placed in there where it doesn't feel like it's overstaying its welcome. I would like it if I didn't have to have these Dr. Seuss movies be that way, but you know what? I'm not running the studios, unfortunately. And worst of all, these are Dr. Seuss films that go completely against everything the books are supposed to go for. The Lorax, promoting Mazda cars, which are basically a hypocrisy of what the movie's about. The Cat in the Hat had numerous marketing campaigns for this film that just felt like they were so out of place and just so out of touch of what Dr. Seuss's works are supposed to be. These are supposed to be entertaining stories for kids as well as adults and teach life lessons. They're not supposed to be raunchy, over-the-top, and hypocritical, PG-rated failures of movies. At least with Horton Hears a Who, which was the next one after this, they got the style right. They got the idea of, what the books are supposed to be about. Another one had pop culture references, but you know what? Still made for an entertaining movie. It says something when The Grinch, both the Grinch movies and Horton Hears a Who are the far superior Dr. Seuss adaptations. Those are not perfect movies, but you know what? They do a better job of capturing the spirit of Dr. Seuss's stories than Cat in the Hat and the Lorax did. But bottom line, I mean, what more can I say? The Cat in the Hat is just an abomination on so many levels, and just the end of the road for Mike Myers' goodwill, because after this, his career went downhill. Okay, with the exception of the Shrek movies, but we'll get to those a little bit later. But you get what I mean here. Like, just not a very good movie. A bad movie. One of my top 30 worst movies of all time, easily. So that is The Cat in the Hat. Let's go ahead and turn the tide here with our next movie, and that is Halle Berry and Robert Downey Jr. in the horror thriller Gothika.
Miranda Gray is an expert at knowing what is sane.
Are you okay?
Until she found herself on the other side.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, it's a girl. This is the girl that I saw.
Is it possible she died 4 years ago? Do you trust me?
You can't trust somebody when they've been too crazy.
Gothika, rated R. Starts Friday, November 24th.
And just when you think that trailer isn't bad enough, you should see what the international trailer for this movie looked like. And, needless to say, it's pretty much nightmare fuel. I know it's also in 187.2 with Samuel L. Jackson, but that was my first time hearing it in this trailer. It's one of my favorite songs, and it's kind of hard not to see why. I can't play it in full, obviously, because of copyrights. But this is Gothika, which is the film following Halle Berry as a psychiatrist who finds herself incarcerated in the penitentiary where she works at, accused of brutally murdering her own husband. This is actually the fourth film produced by Dark Castle Entertainment, but this was notably the first one to feature some pretty high-profile stars involved. And the film did very well with the general public overall. It was a huge hit financially. Critically, not so much, but, you know, I thought it was alright. I definitely like the style of it. I think it has a really creepy vibe to it. Yeah, the story is very much a generic storyline we've seen done to death. But the performances overall are very good. Halle Berry's really good in the film. Robert Downey Jr., Charles Letts Dutton, Penelope Cruz, I think, is really good. And, yeah, the creep factor definitely is there. The thing about these Dark Castle movies, they may not be great films overall, but they have those little edges to them that give them a chance to really stand out on their own. I think this is one of the last ones that really did it the best. And, I thought it was really good. I mean, I don't have much more to say about it. I thought it was actually pretty good. Enjoy it while it lasts, because after this, it's just downhill from there for Dark Castle Entertainment, because they follow this up with House of Wax, which I don't think I need to tell you how bad that is, but we'll get to that one eventually. But, overall, I did really like Gothika. I thought it was actually pretty good, despite what people said about it, critics said. But, let's go ahead and move on to the last movie, probably the best film overall of the week, and that is 21 Grams. Directed by Alejandro Gonzalez Inarritu, who of course gave us Babel, Birdman, The Revenant, just a ton of great movies. This is actually the second part of his trilogy of death, with the first film being Ameros Perros, and Babel is supposed to be the last one. The plot is about the consequences of a tragic hit-and-run accident. Sean Penn plays a critically injured mathematician, Naomi Watts plays a grief-stricken mother, and Benicio del Toro plays a born-again Christian ex-convict whose faith is sorely tested in the aftermath of the incident. The three main characters each have past, present, and future story threads, which are shown as nonlinear fragments that punctuate elements of the overall story, all imminently coming towards each other and coalescing as the story progresses. And really, there's not much more you can say about the movie that hasn't already been said. It's just a really intense psychological thriller with a strong cast. It also includes Melissa Leo and Charlotte Gainsbourg. It's just everything you can expect from a really good director like Alejandro Gonzalez Inarritu. I mean, this is a guy that knows what he's doing. The cinematography is great. The drama is very good here. The acting is top-notch. I actually prefer Sean Penn in this than I did in Mystic River, even though I thought he was all right in Mystic River, but I thought his performance in here was great. But this was a film that got several nominations for Naomi Watts and Benicio del Toro at the Oscars. And, yeah, it's just a really solid film. A film I thought was very good. It just has a lot of elements to it that I thought were really intense. And like I said, it's what Alejandro Gonzalez Inarritu does so well. He's proved it with many movies. This is the first one that many people saw with him as like, hey, this guy's actually pretty damn good. And, yeah, not much more I could say about this one. 21 Grams is a fantastic film. I recommend checking it out. And so with that said, we wrap up another edition of Time About the Movies. We'll jump into Thanksgiving weekend next time around with 6 movies, including Eddie Murphy and Disney's The Haunted Mansion, the raunchy Christmas comedy Billy Bob Thornton with Bernie Mac, Laura Graham, and John Ritter in one of his last movies, Bad Santa, the Ron Howard directed The Missing with Tommy Lee Jones and Cate Blanchett, Timeline directed by Richard Donner. We also have, I just had it right here, The Cooler with William H. Macy and Alec Baldwin in a good movie, and also the animated feature, The Triplets of Belleville. So we'll take a look at all 6 of those movies coming up on the next episode. But until then, thank you so much for watching, and if you want to see more videos like this, please hit the playlist on the next page, check out the previous episode, and also don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button if you want to see more videos like this on this channel. So, with that said, I am off. I will see you guys next time, and until then, as always, take care.